Sonic boom! A fighter jet roars past the control tower, shaking the ground below. Commander Travis, yelling into the radio, "Who the hell is flying that jet? That's a reckless maneuver." Lieutenant Amara Cole, gripping the flight stick, her breathing steady, eyes locked on the target ahead, ignores the noise in her earpiece. Squad leader, laughing, mocking, "Must be a glitch. There's no way the rookie made that turn." Suddenly, alarms blare, a direct missile lock on Amara's aircraft. She flips her jet into an impossible roll, dodging the missile by inches. Commander Travis, stunned, voice shaking, "That's not possible." Location, U.S. Naval Air Station, Elite Fighter Pilot Training Program. Time 5:12 a.m., pre-dawn flight drills. The early morning sky was a canvas of deep navy blue, speckled with fading stars as the first streaks of orange began creeping over the horizon. The naval airstrip, stretching endlessly into the distance, was bathed in the artificial glow of floodlights. The hum of jet engines preparing for takeoff vibrated through the concrete, mixing with the sharp scent of jet fuel in the air. A handful of elite pilots moved with precision, their flight suits crisp, their helmets tucked under their arms as they marched toward their aircraft. Among them was Lieutenant Amara Cole, the only black woman in the program, and the one nobody expected to make it this far. At 5'10", Amara carried herself with the kind of confidence that wasn't given, but earned. Her athletic build spoke of discipline. Her sharp brown eyes missed nothing, and the firm set of her jaw told the world she was no stranger to doubt, to opposition. She had grown up watching planes carve through the sky, dreaming of the day she could be the one in the cockpit. But dreams didn't come easy for girls like her, especially not in a world where tradition weighed heavier than talent. And now, standing on the runway, dressed in a flight suit identical to the men beside her, she was living proof that the impossible was just an excuse people used to stay comfortable. But that didn't mean the fight was over. The Elite Fighter Pilot Training Program, known as the Crucible among pilots, wasn't just a school. It was a battlefield. Only the best survived, and every year a handful of candidates washed out before they even had a chance to touch the sky. The ranking officers claimed it was about skill, about pushing recruits beyond their limits. But for some, the rules weren't the same. And no one knew that better than Amara. She had spent the last 6 months fighting for every flight hour, every opportunity, while others had their futures secured before they even arrived. And leading the charge against her? Commander Travis Hale. A decorated combat pilot, Hale was respected, feared, and deeply set in his ways. To him, the cockpit was no place for sentimentality or social experiments, as he so often hinted. He was the kind of man who believed the skies belonged to a certain kind of pilot. And in his eyes, Amara Cole wasn't it. As the pilots suited up, their helmets reflecting the neon glow of the control tower, Hale stood in front of them, arms crossed over his chest. His voice, sharp and commanding, cut through the morning air. "Today's drill is simple," he said, his gaze locking onto Amara for a beat too long. "You'll be executing a high-speed interception maneuver. You screw it up, you're done. No second chances." The words weren't meant for the others. They were meant for her. She didn't react. She had spent too many years mastering the art of not giving them the satisfaction. Next to her, Lieutenant Jace Whelan smirked. He had been one of the first to challenge her place here, whispering under his breath that she was a diversity hire, that she wouldn't last a week. "Hope you don't puke up there, Cole," he muttered as he adjusted his flight gloves. She turned her head just enough to meet his eyes. "Worry about your own flight, Whelan," she said evenly. "I'd hate to see you choke under pressure." The men around them chuckled, but Whelan's smirk tightened. Hale stepped closer. "You think this is a game, Cole?" His voice was low now, just for her. She didn't flinch. "No, sir." "Good, because if you embarrass my squadron today, I'll personally make sure you never fly again." Within minutes, the pilots were strapped into their cockpits, engines roaring to life. Amara's pulse remained steady as she flipped switches, the familiar weight of her helmet settling over her head. Tower control crackled in her earpiece. "Ghost Squadron, you are cleared for takeoff." One by one, the fighter jets launched into the sky, their afterburners leaving streaks of fire against the breaking dawn. As Amara's jet climbed, the world below shrank, and for a moment the noise, the doubt, the weight of expectation, all of it faded. Up here, she wasn't an outsider. She was exactly where she was meant to be. The objective was clear: intercept a simulated enemy aircraft before it reached the designated airspace. The pilots moved in formation, their jets slicing through the sky in perfect synchronization. But Amara knew the real test wasn't the maneuver, it was her, and they were waiting for her to fail. "All right, Cole," Hale's voice rang through the comms, laced with barely contained amusement. "Show us if you've got what it takes." She knew what was coming before it even happened. The enemy drone's trajectory shifted. It was headed straight for her, and it wasn't a coincidence. Hale had changed the simulation, increasing the speed, altering the flight path, making the interception nearly impossible. They wanted to see her struggle. They wanted her to break. Amara gritted her teeth, her fingers tightening on the controls. Not today. The drone was moving too fast, too erratically. If she miscalculated by even a fraction of a second, she'd either overshoot or stall out. She had two choices: follow protocol and fail, or take the risk and prove them all wrong. She inhaled sharply, and then she moved. Amara yanked the stick, rolling her jet into a high G maneuver that sent her into a near-vertical climb. The force crushed her into the seat, her vision narrowing. "Cole, what the hell are you doing?" Hale's voice snapped through the comms. She ignored him. With a calculated flick of her wrist, she twisted the jet into an inverted dive, dropping beneath the drone, flipping herself into its blind spot. She had it. Locked. Her finger hovered over the trigger. "Missile locked." The AI confirmed. She fired. The drone exploded in a fireball, the shockwave rattling through her jet as she leveled out. For a second, the comms went silent, then... "Holy hell," Whelan muttered. Amara exhaled slowly, her heartbeat steady. "Cole, return to base," Hale said, his voice strained. She knew what had just happened. She had just humiliated him in front of his own squadron. And this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. As she turned her jet back toward base, one thought settled in her mind. They could doubt her, they could try to break her, but she would never let them win. This was her sky now, and she wasn't going anywhere. Location: U.S. Naval Air Station, Fighter Pilot Training Grounds. Time: 7:42 a.m., post-mission debriefing. The moment Lieutenant Amara Cole stepped out of her fighter jet, she knew something was wrong. The airfield, usually buzzing with post-flight chatter, had gone eerily quiet. Other pilots avoided eye contact, some murmuring under their breath as she walked past. She pulled off her helmet, beads of sweat clinging to her skin. Her chest still heaved from the adrenaline of the impossible maneuver she had just executed. She had done the unthinkable. A move so precise, so dangerous, that no pilot had ever dared to attempt it in training. And instead of respect, she was met with silence. Ahead, Commander Travis Hale stood near the control tower, his expression unreadable, his stance rigid. He was waiting. For her. The debriefing room was dimly lit, the sound of a ticking clock filling the tense space. Amara stood at attention, her uniform damp from exertion. Across from her, Hale leaned against the table, arms crossed, his icy blue eyes boring into her. The silence stretched. Finally, he spoke. "You deliberately disobeyed direct orders." Amara remained still. "I adapted to the situation, sir." Hale let out a dry laugh, pushing off the table. "That wasn't adaptation, Cole. That was reckless. You don't pull a stunt like that unless you're trying to show off." His words were laced with venom, but she refused to react. "With respect, sir, the original flight path was altered. The maneuver I executed was the only way to intercept the drone in time. Hale stepped closer, lowering his voice. Do you know what your problem is, Lieutenant? You think skill makes you untouchable, but this program isn't just about skill. It's about discipline, and you don't have it. Her jaw clenched, but she didn't speak. You're not a fighter pilot, Cole, he continued, voice like a blade. You're a liability. You don't belong here. And trust me, by the end of the week, neither will your name. She forced herself to stay calm, to hold her ground. Permission to speak freely, sir. Hale raised an eyebrow, gesturing for her to continue. Is that why you changed the simulation? The air in the room shifted. Hale's expression barely flickered, but she saw it. The briefest hesitation, a confirmation. The so-called test had been rigged. She had been set up to fail, but instead, she had won. Hale took a slow step back, exhaling through his nose. Dismissed, Lieutenant. Amara hesitated for only a moment before turning on her heel and walking out. But she knew this was only the beginning. Location, simulated combat drills, air-to-air engagement. Time 12:30 p.m., intense midday heat. Hale wasn't finished with her. Within hours of the debriefing, she had been reassigned to a brutal, nearly impossible training exercise. A 1-on-3 aerial combat simulation. 3 top pilots, 1 target. Her. The rules were simple: evade, survive, or lose. As she climbed into the cockpit, she heard the radio crackle. Cole, let's see if that stunt of yours was luck. It was Lieutenant Jace Whelan. She smirked as she fastened her straps. Luck? That's cute. Try to keep up. The engines roared to life. Altitude, 35,000 feet. The first attack came fast. Did this story inspire you? Let's talk. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to prove yourself against all odds? Make sure to subscribe for more powerful stories that need to be told. Hit that like button if you believe in fighting for what's right, and share this story because if we don't tell these stories, who will?